I didn't really have an opportunity to tell you exactly what I feel about God. Like I said, I believe Christ is the head. I believe that we're the body. But like everything that people said, I think it's a universal thing. I believe that the Bible and my relationship with God and the church and all that, it sort of introduced me to my relationship. But you got to be selfish. You got to go out there and say, what more can I learn and explore about God to tap into those spiritual realms, to tap in things that you have the abilities to do that you don't even realize that you have the ability to do, because we are spiritual beings. And we can tap into things that we'll never ever think is possible. And it's not about titles, it's not about bragging, but I'm telling you, me to be able to be a professor and do certain things that I'm able to do, I never would have thought it was possible. And people that know me in this room never would have thought it was possible. But once I was able to truly tap into God and break myself away from the church and what the church was offering me, and it was two significant things that really got me away from the church to realize that it was sort of a trap. Because once I saw this kid shouting in church, it really freaked me out. And I asked my parents, I said, why in the world is this kid shouting? They said, he's filled with the Holy Spirit. I was like, okay. But it just didn't make sense to me. But when I started digging into the Bible, and I realized that once we get saved, we have the Holy Spirit in us. So why is this kid dancing and confusing me and making everything go crazy in my mind? And then I never understood all of these denominations. You Free Will Baptist, you pray this way. You Pentecostal, you pray this way. And then you start studying the whole religion of, how church came to form, and it came from Catholicism. But then you talk to some people that's Christians, and they say, oh, the Catholics are wrong. But your religion came from Catholicism. So that confused me. And then I remember one time I was talking to this pastor, and I said, look, I got saved, man, but there's no magical cure for me. I still look at women. I love the way they look. I love the way that girl butt formed. I'm just being honest. And I said, what can I do? He said, well, you need to pray hard. I was like, pray hard. I said, man, I've been praying, fasting and everything, and I still look at that woman. I think she look fine as I don't know what. Right? So he said, well, you need to pray. I said, let me ask you this. I said, you don't never get tempted or never think about anything? And he looked me in my eyes and said, no. And I said, oh my God, I just read the Bible that all men fall short. And nobody is perfect and without sin. So I was like, this is confusing me. So I realized that, it's about your relationship, man. And what we're doing right now is they call it catechetical. So it's a teaching and learning process. And I think that's what God needs to be more about. So I'm glad that we're able to do this. So I want you to sort of understand that I do believe in Jesus Christ. I believe in that, but I'm not a fan of religion. I feel like it's a category. And just like they try to categorize us with our race and our social economic status, they handicap us to what we're capable of doing by putting us in that box. So I'm glad we're able to get together. So with that being said, let me go ahead on to, I think this question is important. Anybody can address it, and I think once you address it, you also need to define exactly what this is. Is there a difference between religion and spirituality? And if it is, I want to know what it is from your point of view.
There's a definite difference between religion and spirituality. Religion is the machine. Spirituality is the being. Think about this. All right. Even without religion, so you think about this, atheist, somebody who is also quote unquote considered atheist, and people who are atheists don't even consider themselves atheists. A lot of them don't. All right? So people who we claim to be atheists, which is no religion, no belief in, seem to do more in the community. Right? Atheist people that we claim to have no religion do more in the community. Just like my brothers were just talking about, they do more in the community than people who claim to be spiritual with a religion. Religion it's just like I said before, religion was used to separate. It's a category. If you get everybody together, and without religion, we look around in this room, we all black. Without religion, outside, we're all white. Without religion, we're just people. And we're all servants without religion. So now when you take religion away, like I said, it's a difference between being spiritual. And because you got some people that's in the church, it's not spiritual. You know, you got some people that serve in the church and they have positions and do whatever in the religion and they're not spiritual. You can go to them, you can tell, hey, they're cold. It's a cold spirit. When you get next to them, you're like, wow, just feel the cold. And this is one thing that I deal with now, and I was scared of it, and I'm not afraid to say that I had to go to a psychiatrist for it. I was scared of it. I see colors. And see, this is what I'm saying, spirituality. My mom told me early, and it's not a bragging point, it's just a point that I refer back to. A lot of y'all know my mother and how close she was with God and how nice and godly. She told me, she said, "Kid, you got the heart of God." This is at 3, 4, 5 years old. And I didn't know what that meant. I had no idea because everybody that know me know I will reach my hand out to anybody, break my neck, give my last to help anybody. I don't care if I know you or if I don't. I will be there. I will be there. You tell me you need to be there, I'll be there. So, when I started to see these colors, I became afraid. I hid them at a young age. I kind of suppressed it at a young age. I saw colors. And I see colors around people. You know what I'm saying? I see colors around people. So when I look at you, I see a color. And I used to like, I can't see that color. I shake my head. I can't. And a lot of y'all know I'm an artist. So we also, artists, also see in a different light. It's just like what Pharrell said, you see music in colors. Music is colors. So I'm an artist musically and I'm an artist visually. So when I was seeing these colors, just last year I started going crazy. I felt like I started going crazy. Because I'm like, yo, I see these colors and I see all this around me and I didn't know how to handle it. So I had to go see a psychiatrist. Honestly, I went to the garden clinic and saw a psychiatrist. But she gave me the best advice. And she was like, yo, if you think it's real, it's real. So spiritually, that had nothing to do with religion. But it's the spiritual energy that I saw. It's just like with Chinese people. Think about that spirituality they have when they doing Tai Chi and they moving. Some of that stuff, you know, that's just spiritual. The Chi. They talk about Chi or power, whatever you want to call it. Chemic. Karass, where they said Christ, the word Christ came from. Karass was how people treated each other in Egypt. When they came down from the mountains and they saw how the Egyptians treated each other, the Egyptians called it how I treat you, how I'm going to help you out is Karass. And so from Karass, the word Christ came. And they said Christ was hijacked and all of that from Horus from Egypt, because Egypt, if you can look at the time, what the Egyptians thought predate everything else. So Horus, Christ are supposed to be the same people, which I spoke about with the Roman. Catholic Catholicism pray to who? Every morning. Who they pray to every morning? A black Madonna. A black woman. So the spiritual, it's all spiritual. And it starts with the women. Because even the Ankh, the biggest part of the Ankh is the woman. It's the woman. So, you know, at the end of the day, this is not about religion. It's just like you guys said. When we start, spiritual people will get out and work in the streets. Those are the ones who has that spirituality. Those who are connected with themselves and knowing all of that. All right?
And look, I don't cut you off. I'm saying we need the dialogue because I'm looking at everybody's face. And if y'all find a good time to get in there, why not get in there? And I wonder women to have something to say too. I think they said something very powerful before we all got started. Yeah. To sort of add to that.
Yeah. Hope they didn't forget.
Yeah.
Hope y'all didn't forget.
Oh, I forget. Well, my difference between religion and spirituality, religion keeps you yoked up and bound. Spirituality, it begins with yourself, it begins with a relationship. You gotta know yourself. That's basically where it starts. You know who you are, know yourself, and like Christ said before, you have to love yourself before you can love others. Once you learn how to love yourself, you're gonna look at everybody else as yourself. And with that spirituality, you know, you have to look at everybody. God dwells within me. He dwells within you. He dwells within you. He dwells within you. Temple, like we are the church. The word is already in us. We already know what we need to say, what we need to do. We're supposed to help everybody. All of us need each other. Y'all are my brothers and sisters. I don't look at y'all I don't look at y'all different. So, like I said, religion, it keeps you yoked up and bound. You can't do nothing. It's like you're scared to do something. If the pastor didn't say it, then it don't mean nothing. basically. Spirituality, like I said, it's all about religion. It's all about building that relationship with God. Once you build that relationship with God, then you can be godly. You can actually treat everybody like yourself because you understand God's will for you. I'm going to go ahead and pass the mic.
Hello again, everybody. I think for me, with spirituality and religion, like I had talked about before with my husband passing, the breaking point for me was, even though my husband passed with complications of AIDS, and my test came back negative, the stigma that was placed on me, that was God's breaking point for me for my faith test to come about, because I always think about the scripture when he talks about, when you do unto the least of me, you done unto me. And I think about that with spirituality and religion. A lot of times we comfort zone in religion because we're afraid of spiritual growth. How many of us are afraid to grow? Because that means you have to actually be active in your purpose. You have to be purpose driven. So that means that requires responsibility to uphold yourself, to be focused on a pathway. We look at Jesus and we look at the disciples, even though there were temptations in the garden, there were issues that were going on. We always have to think about that he had to remain faithful to the pathway. How many of us are willing to remain faithful to our pathway? So I'm going to pass the mic.
Wow. Okay, again, this is based off of your question. I feel that religion is taught. Spirituality is the energy within all of us. When you walk around people, you feel that vibe off of them, good, bad, ugly, whatever it is. We are not taught that. It's in us already. Just like they say, I'm going to ask right now, but anyway, I'm staying on that. This how I feel about that. Religion is what they taught us. Like y'all said, I'm glad y'all said the word category, because this is exactly what it is. I done played drums for every kind of denomination of church my whole life. Every year. Every preacher, every month, preach on the same subject, the same scripture. Whether it's, whether it's the garden eating from the tree, whether it's Moses, the Red Sea, whether it's with Jones getting ate by the wheel, Daniel alive then, I'm just saying, that was taught.
That's what they were taught.
Us.
That's what they were taught.
You understand? And then, and I done read so much of the Bible I couldn't read. Done read so many other type of books on religion, like the sister said, man, I come back to square one. And I'm still like, what is this, man? You know, like, man, y'all keep talking, bro.
I think, look, I don't even like perhaps it might be, and I didn't mean to break in front of anybody. I'll be quick though. I think it's important to know or to understand that, like we all saying, God is us, right? This is the closest visual you'll get of God right now walking on this earth, because God dwells in us. Man, it's like I made my sons over here. They are, if I leave this earth, they're an extension of me. So if I'm they'll be a man one day. But anyway, everybody know where we're going with this. So I think that's important. But let me play devil's advocate for a second. Because when you study mathematics, that's a lifelong study, right? So if the church, and I'm talking about the building right now, I know that our temple is a church. Now, vibe with me for a second, because I'm where y'all are, but I'm playing devil's advocate for a second. Now, if the church, that building can be a place where we can all assemble, and you got to understand, most people, I'm talking about most, the percentage of people that walk into a church are walking in that church with the right state of mind, or they're scorned and they're walking into that church to get to the right state of mind. Right? So if that church is the place where we can assemble, why can't we go to that church and talk the same knowledge that we're talking with the same people? It ain't got to be up to the pastor, because guess what? Pastor got to go home. I can reach out and touch this brother and say, you know what, man, let's go out to eat. And then we're going to build. I can talk to this brother, let's go out to eat, and then we're going to build. Because if we don't do that, it's our fault. And that's the point that I'm making. That's why we're here. If we don't reach out to people, if we sit on our ass and not say, hey, man, I know something more. I know something different. Have you heard about this? Have you read about that? Or even, how can I help you? If we don't get to that point, it don't matter. It don't give a damn what we're talking about today, because we're just having a discussion that's going to go away with the wind. So we got to get to the point where we can take these situations where we're talking about we're all God, because we're all an extension of God, and we're all family, and it's all about love. If you want to talk about the difference of religion and spirituality, it's love. Okay. Some religions don't have love. Spirituality is full of blood, and it's God's love.
Hey, I agree with everything you said. But another thing we got to sort of be careful with, though, is some people are not ready to be fed.
Mm.
Right? So we go out and we give them, we say we're gonna give them these pearls of wisdom, and they're like, oh, this person is making me feel uncomfortable about everything I've been taught, because everything I've been taught sort of make me who I am as a person, and now, man, this person is teaching me things that go against everything that I've been trained to think. It may push them farther away from God, or make them even more confused. So I think even when we're talking, a lot of us are enlightened, so we can deal with this. This is not too heavy for us. But if we even go talk to some pastors about the things that we're talking about, they may say, oh my God, because when we think about it, right, we got a lot of pastors that's running the church that may have a minimal high school education. But they gotta speak the King James version and all of this stuff, and they getting praised by all these people, so they feel, I'm up here, and now who are you coming to talk to me? You know, and you never been to church, and then you say, well, I went to theology, and they say, well, God called me, because they're going off of, I got a feeling. Because sometimes we get a feeling, it's not necessarily the spirit moving us. You know, it can be our emotions. And I think a lot of times, just being black in general, we emotional people. So if we get that emotion, we like, oh, that's God calling me. But is it really the emotions making us discern for right and wrong? You know what I mean? So I think what you're saying is right, but we just got to be very careful.
Well, when we do that, that's where we have to check our ego.
True.
Because like these
discern
kids, I
between the
couldn't
two.
feed them a whole plate at one time. I had to start with little bits and bites, baby food, and then I had to give them a little piece of chicken, and then move back.
Let me just interject.
That's a scripture for you.
I'll make this short, man, because I got somewhere else to go. First of all, I just want to thank you guys for inviting me here. The difference between spirituality and religion to me is when you're in the spirituality, it gives you room to grow. You know, as a religion, you can only go but so far. You know, the Bible is only but so thick. You know, the Quran is only so thick. You can only when you're done, when you get to the end of it, where are you gonna go? Where are you gonna go? You have nowhere else to go. So what happens is it becomes a monotony. So you start all back over, all over again. You know, we're all in here, and we're talking about spirituality and religion. When you discuss it in that form, it's fine. But as soon as somebody say, well, what is your religion? Oh, I'm this. Oh, I can't deal with you.
That's true.
You know, because my religion says I shouldn't talk to you, or I shouldn't dwell in the place that you dwell in. And that's just the difference. To me, that's the difference between spirituality and religion. Again, I just want to say thank you guys, man, and I enjoyed it. And if you guys do it again, hey, I will definitely do it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I gotta get up. Okay, that's all right. That's all right.
Well,
What's up, boy? It's been a
well,
minute.
what I was speaking about the situation is most of y'all in there know me. I was raised around. I played on both sides of the track. I've been what you call an entrepreneur, and I also been a blue collar worker. I've been from east to west. I always get, I know you from somewhere. I've been from far north to California, from up top to bottom, east side. I've been everywhere. The people see Christ in you.
That's right.
They see that God in you. I wasn't brought up in a church. I was the farthest thing from the church. You know what I'm saying? But me being taught after I got in my mid-20s, I was, being taught by my pastor that I'm under now. It's not all about that feeling. He preaches on it all the time. It's not all about that feeling. And he guided me to where I am. He actually helped me to be the man I am. And his father, great man of God. And the royal law that God bases everything on is love. If we can't love one another, we can't function in the same body. All of us are the same body. If this pinky hurts, this whole body is out of whack. You can't function. You can't shoot a J. You can't even dribble right because that pinky hurt. We have to go back to square one. We got to start this thing all over again. We've gotten prideful, utterly materialistic, just socially out of whack as a people. But it comes from not having anything.
Yeah.
And that hurt us socially, very socially. And for me, not having a father, I broke a link. I broke a link in the chain. 'Cause I have 4 boys and 3 girls. I actually broke that link that most of us been in, being fathers. Knowing that my spiritual father always had my back, because I could have been in jail, dead, a couple of times. But having that grace abounded me for where I'm at right now. Where I can go back and teach my little young boys, hey man, you gotta slow down, boy, you're going too fast. You ain't got nowhere to live, you buying all these cars. Somebody looking at you, man. I've been there, I've done that. I can teach you. I can help you get a job. I can help you write a resume. I got my head on straight, man. I know how to walk this narrow path that these white people, so to speak, don't want you to be on. I can guide you here. This is what we all need. We all need guidance. Somebody needed to guide us some which way or another. We didn't get here on our own. Whether it was spiritual, physical, it all started with love. Somebody loved you at some point in time that showed you something to get you where you are right now. And that's the basis of it.
Wow, I just want to say, man, it's real dope being here because I know a lot of these brothers from like ground level, and to just see where we at now, like they're saying a lot, Like I'm happy to be here, you know what I'm saying? Because I like where everybody is at right now. That let me know that I grew up with like a good circle of people. You know what I'm saying? Is that all right for me to say? But I want to piggyback off of what you said, James. It was something small you said, but that small thing that you said about the pastor, barely having a certain level of education or whatever. That's what we losing a lot of people in church because it's like that's the era that we came up in. We came up, with the pastor that just went straight from the Bible, and if you had any issues or anything, they just say to pray about it. No, I'm not gonna question that.
No, I'm saying, they would say, don't question.
Yeah, right. But we living in a time now where information is more accessible than anything.
Right.
It's at an all-time high right now. Like there's no excuse for you not to know anything because the information is like at your fingertip right now. And that's where we're losing a lot of people. I was listening to Sheldon a while ago talking about, the Jonah story and, all them stories or whatever. But see, I think what we got off is, a lot of those pastors didn't know how to apply those stories to real life. You know what I'm saying? Like they just went straight from the book and they didn't know how to apply those stories to real life situations. You know what I'm saying? Somebody on Facebook, I think it was Tori had a question or whatever. And I talked about the parable about the seeds. That's something that I just learned though. I've been hearing that story all my life, but never knew how to apply it to my life. You know what I'm saying? Once we learn how to start doing, because these stories, man, these stories that we've been reading all our life, like they ain't null and void. These stories ain't for nothing. But we got to, if the pastor ain't doing it, then we got to do it.
That's right.
You know what I'm saying? The worst thing that we have been doing to each other, and I'm not talking about us, because I can honestly say, man, that every brother in here that I know had my back in some shape, form, or fashion. You know what I'm saying? But I think the most dangerous thing that we can do to each other as a people is withhold knowledge from each other.
That's right.
That's what we hurt each other.
That's real.
You know what I'm saying? Like straight up and down, that's the worst thing that we can do. I heard what you said a while ago about, everybody's not ready to be fed or whatever. But it's like, hey man, if they are, it's our responsibility as a people to feed them. And then that person gonna pay. I'm passing on something right now that I learned from this man. You know what I'm saying? Because he came to my house one day, and I don't even know, he knew I was having a crazy day, but he said something that resonated in me. This man always saying something to me, you know what I'm saying, that, I'm listening. That's why when I came in, they was like, you got something to say? I'm like, nah, I'm taking it in right now. You know what I'm saying? Like I use every brother I encounter as my cliff notes.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? Because it's like, if I spend so much time, focusing on what I got to say, I'm gonna miss something very important, man. You know what I'm saying? But I just wanted to piggyback off that point that you made about, you know, the education and whatnot, man. It's very important, man. Very important.
I'll say one thing to add to that. And what's hurting our black church, I said it a little bit over there, sure. We got a lot of pastors trying to educate without being educated.
Right.
Exactly.
Right.
And that's the scary thing, because there's no way in the world you can educate people if you're uneducated or you're unwilling to learn and listen.
Right.
And I feel like, just like what Kevin said, everywhere you go, you are never the smartest person in the room. What can you learn from somebody else?
Right.
You got to pursue every situation with an open-minded perspective. And once you do that, you start saying, oh, okay, that's how that makes sense. That connects. Because that's being spiritual. Because it's all about mind, body, and spirit. And I think we try to just focus, a lot of people focus on the so-called spirit. Well, if I go to church and I do this, you know, spiritual. Well, why do God also want you to be healthy? Why do He want you to be fit? Everything is about elevation. And the higher you go, the more money you make. I believe in capitalism. The more money you make, the more people are willing to listen. But what are you really selling them on? You're not selling them on the fact that you got money or you got materialistic things. I'm really trying to sell you on the fact that, look, I'm a child of God. And I'm here to enlighten and inspire you to get the most out of your life. Because once you get the most out of your life, you can inspire other people to get the most out of your life because we're all connected to the body. Right? So that's what it's really about.
Well, when you speak of religion and spirituality, religion basically, to me, it seems sometimes it's a beginning and an end. Spirituality goes a long way, forever. So again, when you talked about the pastor being a student as well, also have to remember that the pastor is also a child of God.
That's right.
So there's no, he can tell you what it is that you should know without him also continue to learn too. He's growing as long as you're growing. You never stop growing being a child of God.
Right.
Because when you start growing, then that's the end. Like you said, there is a beginning and an end when it's time to leave this earth. But what you leave in your spirituality is what it is that you leave. You know, and also, you know, I'm a firm believer in God, firm believer in, you know, having God within myself and teaching my kids that they have to have their own path as well. So when I teach them, I don't want to box them in as far as religion and saying, well, you need to believe in Christ and there's nothing else you can believe in. You just have to find your way and find your way through the Spirit. Not find your way through, if you do this, you're going to hell. If you do that, then it's wrong, it's right, it's wrong, it's whatever. I want you to learn your way and learn that as a man, as a child of God, as being spiritual, that you're able to go forward. You can never stop going forward by being spiritual. That's the thing. You don't want to have religion and just be boxed in. I don't want to be in a square. It's a maze. It's a maze of everything out here. So when you make it through the maze and you just follow on your path, and when you get on the path that you deserve to be on or you want to be on, then again, you'll live forever.
I just wanted to follow up on a point you made when you were saying about knowledge, and there's so much knowledge out here that there's no real reason to walk in ignorance. And one of the things that greatly concerns me, you know, I'm a professor, so I work with millennials basically, right? The thing that really concerns me, and I'm starting to see it in Generation X, right? You even see it in baby boomers. People are relying so much on these mobile devices and these forms of communication that allow you to store information in a device as opposed to in your head, right? And so a lot of this knowledge that we're talking about and we're trying to seek does you no good stored on a mobile device, but it has to be inside of you before you can spiritually grow from it. You can't reference it on something and expect to have the spiritual elevation, right? So it's crazy because we as people of color went from a place where people wouldn't allow us to learn to now being bamboozled into being in a university for 4 years and not learning the damn thing because you don't see the importance in the education itself, right? The other point I wanted to make that you hit on. Now we've lost this idea of seeking mentorship, right? Someone knowing more than you and you seeking them for knowledge. So it takes, first of all, the acknowledgement that you don't know everything. Secondly, there are others that know more than you and you need to seek that. But also realizing that some people have the gift of teaching. Some people have the ability to relay knowledge. And that's something that you shouldn't take lightly. right? You can't learn from everyone. Everyone, you can't accept the things that they say into you, right? So you got to seek people who have these abilities, the people that know how to relay knowledge. And something that we're doing that I really appreciate is actually communicating with each other. Right? We as black people, we don't communicate. We put up a wall because I don't want you to see where or who I am, what my weaknesses are, right? Everyone wants to come off as being elite, but in essence, right, you got to pull those walls down so we can communicate with each other because that's the only way we're going to succeed.
Right.
That the religion part is what brings me. I can speak about it from the educational perspective at being, spending so many years at East Carolina University, year at Barton College, and years at Wisconsin College, and not graduating. It's because I view that religious aspect as, yeah, I need this education in my life, but what am I going to do? How am I going to apply the religious aspect that I grow up learning to the real world? Right. And I'm glad that we're discussing about it because, and I'm so glad that people in my life have not been afraid to tell me that I don't know everything, to tell me that I need to learn, to tell me that I might need a mentor or this and that, because it does matter, and trust me, eventually they'll learn to appreciate it and take it in, because I have, and I've been truly blessed by it. So that I just want to get that out there. Never be afraid to speak it. Never be afraid to confront someone on a specific issue, because you don't know. It might be years down the road before they actually get it, but one day they do.
Well, one of the things through spiritual and religion that I've been taught, because I've had the same pastor for like 20 years that I went running in Greenville, but she's like my mother. I've seen this lady go from a small church to a big church. She got rejected, but I've watched her. If you're not there, she'll be like, oh, you wasn't here this week. She'll call, hey, why were you, she's very personal. The church gives out, shoes, clothes, all types of crazy things for the people that build houses and do all types of things. So I come up under that, seeing how faith works. But one of the realest moments that I've had in my spiritual walk was at the ministry in South Carolina. And they said, well, you need to go back to like our little parents we had and talk with some of the brothers. Well, some of the brothers, they basically everybody laid out what they had. I'm struggling with sex. I'm struggling with this. I'm struggling with that. And everybody was like, yo, I used to struggle with that too. This is what I did to get over that. And that was real zeal of what happened. And you need to live life as, it's not a checklist. Religion is a checklist. Oh, I don't got my pants on. Check. I'm going to check. You're right. That's it. Reality is like, I got all this on. Regardless of what I got on, what's going on, we are in the hands of God. He said we are in hands. So, one thing that, I'm in the film industry, so I say all type of crazy, and one thing I don't like when people say, I'm going to pray for you. I'm like, God didn't say pray for you. He said, you go off my hand, touch me. I need $5. I'll pray for you. I'll give you to pray for me to get $5. You know what I'm saying? Well, I average way to get a job. I don't need you to pay for me. Because if you pay for me, I can pay for myself. I mean, it ain't God's thing like that. I don't need you.
That's the whole business. Right? Work for yourself.
Everywhere that I go, for example, like you said, everywhere I go, my wife said I know somebody somewhere. I got crazy people talking. I work in mental health. I've had like literally mentally ill people come to me, just start talking to me. Like they know me. Like people talk to me like they know me. White people, white kids, people just start talking to me. But one thing I noticed that, for example, I started to be a preacher. My mother preacher. I was like, okay, I'm gonna be a preacher. I know the word back and forth. I mention people all the time. But that's not me, because I'm like Stephen. Even when I talk to a bishop, because they have a school in the church, they're like, well, and say, you don't need to do this because that's not you. That's not your path. Because I noticed, when God gave me the film company and stuff like that, he was like, you're going to change Hollywood. And my man Q, your cousin Q, and your cousin Q, we had a conversation. He said, well, how do you even change Hollywood? Hollywood don't make movies, they too busy. So he said, because what I did, I turned the light off in my house. He was in the room before dark. I said, I turned the light on. I said, okay, when I turned the light on, right to darkness, it went away. I said, okay, the way I changed Hollywood is where I live my life. Like you're talking about the colors, the power that I generate out. These people come to talk to me, and I talk to people and I always get on God regardless of what I'm talking about. I can be on the set of Hollywood set and still talk about God. And people, I've noticed people come to it. Like, they can be all over it, and next thing you know, they're drawn to it. And my mother always taught me, because if anybody knows me for a extended period of time, I used to mumble, I used to talk fast, I still do a little bit. And my mother used to say, you always need to get corrected that because you're going to be full of thousands of people. But I seen that manifest. I didn't even know what I was going to do. I just knew that I had to follow God, get knowledge and wisdom, follow what He feels. And I remember I made a promise when I moved back from New York. I said, God, wherever you direct me, that's where I would go. The reason why I feel pastors are important because my pastor was just preaching on if God tell you to do something, do it. Don't ask no questions, just do it. So when God was like, hey, so I still coming, I'm like, oh. Who are you talking to? I'm like, I'm not the person. And it's like, he said, just do it. So I related back to this that she said. I just did it. I started LLC, got all my spec correct, not the bootleg, but the correct paperwork. And next thing I know, Hollywood people just started calling me. They started contacting me. I'm like, oh, people, and I've been elevated. I have some people who are known. It's like, dude, you fall in the game, and people in the game for 10 years. Because most of the relationships I built on talking about God. I don't build off, I say, I'll pray for you, I care for you. You know what I'm saying? And people of different religions, different colors, and stuff say stuff to me. I'm like, I love you because you're a person. I've always had to say person. I love you because you're a person. Because anytime that you start putting black, white, social class into things, that's when you start mixing it in. And Jesus went around talking to everybody. He didn't just start, mingling with this person, because because like they say, the Jewish people didn't separate to the Pharisees, he would talk to other people, you know what I'm saying? And I know all about some I don't always put all the proper terms to it, I know the stories. But he started talking to the other people who would accept him. And when people say, look at the Bible, look at this, look at that, and denominations, he said we are many members of one body. So everybody doesn't have it all. But division, the devil been trying to divide the world since the beginning. Right. He tried to divide heaven. So that's where the division comes from. And if you think about it, people who have a disbelief with each other. If I have an argument with you, man, I don't think we should do it that way. And me, all right, I'm stop wrong with church. Division, denomination. Now the body started dividing. That's right. And it starts to get divided. And that's right. I tell people today, if you step back and look at society today, because the revelation, you see the whole world. The church, if you see all the things that's happening today, that there's so much confusion. White against black, Indian against white, this church against this church against black. Well, where was God at when the church got bummed? God was right there. We got free will. That dude bummed the church. Right. You know what I'm saying? But I don't think
Religion and spirituality. Going to religion first, we should initially think about where did it all start from? Where did religion evolved all the way to America from Europe? Now, the person that started religion, this was his first thoughts that I read in world history. His first thoughts was he walked down to the King Constantine, 277 AD through 325 AD.
Council of Nicaea.
Went down. Yeah. Council of Nicaea. Yep. But this was his problem. He'll walk out in this kingdom. He had multicultural kingdom. He'll see this person speaking this language, praying to this God over here. He'll see this person over here speaking this other language, praying to this God over here. He was like, okay. Yeah, he needed the people to be, he said, how can I control these people? I need to get people with one mind state, because if you got all these different diverse mentalities around me, somebody might overthrow the king one day. Some people might start a radical group and overthrow the king. So how can I do this? He said, okay, if I do this militarily, I can't control the people forever with militarily because I run out of money. So he said, what is the best way to control people? He said, through religion. Religion is something that people, through a book specifically, you pick up a book every day, and every day you're going to go, okay, this is where I find God. So you're constantly programming your mind, your subconscious mind that links out to your conscious mind that, okay, this is the aspects of God. And like energy matter can never be destroyed or created. So this energy that stemmed all the way from back then goes to now. This is why we look at aspects always, do I have the right shirt on when I go to church? Am I looking am I talking the right way? Maybe make sure I'm cussing now. Things of that nature. But when you start back looking at religion, yeah, it was
it was definitely manufactured in a way. It was not pure thought of these people are trying to get close to God through the structure of religion. And spirituality, you can find on every ancient wall, from India to China to Africa, just keep going west. You find the same thing on the wall now. Know thyself. That is real spirituality.
Yeah. Know thyself, know thy enemy, 1,000 battles, 1,000 victories.
Yes,
Sun Tzu.
exactly.
Now this is gonna take me 1 minute. 3 points. 1 minute. Number one, who gave you? Like I said, think about this. Africans, before they even had a Bible, were they spiritual? Yes, they were. Before a Bible existed in African tribes, were they spiritual? Yes, they were. What is religion? What is being religious? Something you do all the time. It's something. It's ritualistic. Religion is what your ritual is. So if somebody like Steph Curry, he's ritualistic. He's religious with how he works on his game and how he shoots. That's his religion. He uses it as a religion. All right. And the other thing we talked about was spirituality, and I can speak like what Kent was talking about and what Victor was talking about. I have a free card from white people. I work at St. David's. I have a free card. I was walking, but they saw I was walking to work, from where I stay at. I was walking to school, and I would walk over there to coach or whatever. And the people, but I work with these people's kids. What I do is give it back. I work with special ed students. So, and then I go coach at a predominantly Christian white school. But I don't shun them on whatever they believe and whatever. I just teach those kids how to be upstanding gentlemen, da-da-da-da-da. But the parents see the spirit. And so I ended up driving a BMW first. No, Mercedes, and then they gave me the car I have today. So it's just spirituality. That's just like what you were talking about, how people will see the spirit inside of you. And when you know thyself and you show them the love, so it's everything that we just said, all built in.
Hey, look.